not able to join us today, but they wanted to be a part of it. And so we wanted to make sure that we can capture everything that we're talking about today and fill them in because it's a very exciting topic. So again, welcome everyone. My name is Tom Haggard. I'm the director of the Kentucky Out of School Alliance, and we are very excited to be celebrating Family Engagement and Education Week. I'm very proud to host this webinar with our friends at the Kentucky Collaborative for Families and Schools. I just did want to give a brief, quick shout out and a big thank you to Grace McKenzie, who's with us today from Partners for Rural Impact. This webinar was her idea, and so we were able to put it together collaboratively. So Grace, I just wanted to hand it off to you just to say a welcome and see anything else you wanted to add.
Great. Thank you so much, Tom. It's been a delight working with you. Yes, just want to shout out to everyone who's been able to join as well today. Thank you for participating in this as part of Kentucky's second annual Family Engagement and Education Week. We got to be at the proclamation signing with the governor on Monday. Additionally, today's theme is around community partnerships. We know that just like when NASA launches a rocket, they need engineers and scientists and astronauts and everyone working together with good communication and early planning. And the same thing is true for launching students to success. We need families, we need communities, we need schools all coming together with that early communication and good planning so that we can ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed. So thank you all. I'm so excited to hear about the family school community partnerships that you all have been a part of and have really led initiatives around.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace. Just quickly, again, if you do need credit for this webinar with ECE Trust, I did just drop, again, that sign-in sheet in the chat, so feel free just to fill that out. And we will get that submitted here at the conclusion of our training today. I did just real quickly before we introduce our amazing guests who we're going to get to talk to today, I did just want to give a real quick overview of the Kentucky Out of School Alliance. If you are not familiar with our work, we really do work at the intersection of students, families, schools, and community. So we are a community of professionals and advocates truly dedicated to creating exceptional after school and summer learning opportunities for every student throughout the Commonwealth. We have a vision that all children and youth in Kentucky have access to these high quality out of school time programs that prepare them for success, not only in school, but in their career and in life as well. We're very proud to be one of 50 of the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation state after school networks. We also serve as the Kentucky State affiliate of the National After School Association. And one of our most proud distinctions is being an initiative of Save the Children, who is our fiscal sponsor here in Kentucky. So we really work to support out of school time organizations and professionals, and obviously the children and families that they serve by doing a number of things through forging statewide, regional, local cross-sector partnerships and collaborations like we're doing today, advancing statewide policy, building the capacity of our after school and summer learning workforce, and really trying to provide a centralized hub of data and resources. And so we're very focused on collaboration, transparency, fairness, and belonging, and bringing those values to after school and summer learning programs throughout Kentucky. So just thank you for allowing me that moment to talk about the work that we're doing. So we're very excited to welcome some special guests, some experts in the field of what we're going to be talking about creating these high quality partnerships that support student learning. And so I think first and foremost, while they give you a little introduction of themselves, and perhaps I'll call them out, and they can tell you who they are, where they're from, their role, and a little bit about how their organization supports families, schools, and communities working together. So we'll start off with Philnisha Lindsey, please.
Hello, how's everybody doing? My name is Philnisha Lindsey. I am the director here at Lexington Traditional Magnet School. We're just giving a brief. Okay. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Thanks, Philnisha. We're excited that you're here with us. Jill Handley.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jill Handley. I am the proud principal of Kenwood Elementary, located in Jefferson County Public Schools. I've been here, this is my 16th year as the principal here, and we are proud to say that we were the first school in the state to certify as a family-friendly school. So really excited about that accomplishment, but more than anything, really excited about the work that we engaged in and how that advanced our partnerships with families and communities. So excited to be here today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Rhonda Phillips.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Rhonda Phillips with the director of Thompson Scholars in Manchester, Kentucky. And we're in Southeast Kentucky and Appalachia. And we have our program is an after-school wraparound program that was just established a couple of years ago. We've already had some outstanding outcomes where 70% of our participants are above district level in reading and 75 are above district in math. So we're already seeing that impact and we're really proud of that. And we use a lot of volunteers. So that's kind of where I'll be coming from today, is how we manage to attract volunteers to our program and how we make use of them. And a lot of those are parents. So that parent engagement part is what we're excited about, that helps our program flourish.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for being here, Rhonda. We appreciate it. JoAnne Richardson.
Hi, I'm JoAnne Richardson. I'm actually the chair of OCare, which is the umbrella organization that houses Owsley County Parent Task Force now. So I've been with the task force since Sue started it when it was, I believe it was under the Promised Neighborhood Grant when we first started. And then we sustained it after, you know, she made it so it was sustainable after the funding went. And our focus, you know, we focus on educational impact, family engagement and parent advocacy, supporting at-risk youth. We support families who are raising other people's children. It started out as like grandparents as parents group, and then, you know, that grew because then we had foster parents and we had extended relatives and stuff. So then we just made a support group for them called AROC, which is Adults Raising Others' Children. And so that's one of the big things that we had started with Parent Task Force, was our grandparents' work. And then now we're also supporting families as they go through recovery and reentry. And we're using community engagement and stuff to do that kind of work as well. So
awesome. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because I just want this to be more of a conversation with all of us here. So, you know, I have some questions that I have for our esteemed panelists here that we can talk about, but that certainly should not be the only question. So feel free, as we're having this discussion, to bring yourself off mute, to ask a question. Feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll make sure we pick it up, but we definitely want this to be just a conversation around best practices and to help everyone kind of lift up what are some great ideas around family schools and community partnerships. So my first question to the group, and I'll let you all of you answer this question. What is the most important lesson that you've learned while trying to build and sustain partnerships like this to support students?
For me, the thing that was is that it's important. I mean, I kind of felt like before I got involved in this that, you know, parent engagement, it was just kind of filler talk. You know, these words they would throw around, you really didn't know what that meant. And then once I got started with Parent Task Force, I was like, oh, now I get it. And so it's almost like you can't unsee the impact once you see the impact. And so what I really learned was that it is important. I mean, even if it's just a one-time partnership. It's important.
Mine is kind of lengthy, so I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna go off.
You
If
do
y'all
it.
have any
Do it.
questions,
Oh,
just let me know. So as a director at LTMS, I've learned many important lessons over the years that I've helped make me build sustained partnerships. And it's extremely important to me as I reach out with students, families, and the community. I'm a personable person, so I call them. I think when you build trust with these people in general, I think it makes them, we got to meet these partners and kids and families where they are, so they can break down that wall. So like I said, I think it's extremely important to reach out to many people as you can, continue building relationships, maintaining connections, developing community outreach connections to keep our urban area population thriving, growing, improving, by exhibiting equal understanding by all participants to achieve these goals through constant communication. And that's very, very vital, communication, involved in the same page. And I have who have similar goals, through our community members, golden relationships to help my students, their families, through the partnerships of working together. Another lessons I've learned over the years is scheduling. Wow, scheduling. All events necessary and needed through my program. Scheduling events has been very challenging because everyone is busy. However, it's important to the program to continue to stay flexible, adaptable, to make it work. And for me to continue building a successful program it takes countless hours, as we all know. And extreme planning. On the contrary, sustaining successful programs is difficult, especially when it comes to necessary funds to meet the needs of students' interests, skills, ages, abilities, and providing educational opportunities for diverse families with economic backgrounds. Through my experience over the few years, I've learned that students don't have to be interested in projects or lessons to have meaningful experiences, and encouraging students to try something new through differences and challenges. That's what I've learned. I'm sorry I was lengthy, you guys.
No, I think that was great, Philnisha. One follow-up question I'll have for you to share with the group. You talked about that constant communication,
yes,
but also scheduling. How much time in a week do you set aside or dedicate to making sure you're actually communicating and following up with families of students who are in your after-school program?
Every single day.
Okay.
Every day.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yes.
All right, I'll go next. So much learning, but the three probably main takeaways that I will say that were really big learning that I feel is everyone needs to hear and know is the first piece has to do with sustainability. I feel like in my experience, we have really been, well, I'll call us like, I say I'm the queen of the pop-up family engagements. And what I mean by that is, oh, like I've gone to a conference. Ooh, that sounds like a great night. Let me have this literacy night. All relevant. I'm not saying that they're not good things, but we don't have the think through of, so how does this impact the overall? How are we going to sustain this? Ooh, that's a great idea. I got at this conference, or I saw on this Twitter chat. Let me try that, but it's pop-up. So then the next year we all get into those. Remember when we did that great idea? Why don't we do that anymore? How are we going to sustain it? And then what? The second thing that I think is big, and it sounds like a no-brainer, but it really is a big thing, is understanding the difference between doing school to families and doing school with families. So often, because we are the educational experts, we like to think that we know everything. And so what happens then is that we often make all these plans and then wonder why the families don't show up. Well, because we've not engaged them on the front side. Did I time out, by the way?
You did pause there a little bit. But you're
okay.
we've been hearing you, so it's good.
Okay, great,
It was
great,
a
great.
quick, it was a quick interruption.
Awesome. So yeah, so thinking about that really, because we've learned that like we've put hours and hours and hours into planning an event that the staff has thought was great because we're the educators, and then we're disappointed by the turnout. And then when we're reflecting, we think about, well, where did we involve families on the front end to ask them what their needs were and what their ideas about the evening were? So really transitioning from doing schooling and family engagement to doing it with. And then third, just that equity component, understanding that equity doesn't mean we all get the same thing. And that's the same thing for family engagement as well. And so what does that look like? Anything from, you know, looking at basic need differences to language differences, and really not trying to approach, you know, we know that we don't approach schooling with children as a one size fits all lens, but I think sometimes we try to approach family engagement that way. And so understanding that as much as we differentiate instruction for students, we need to differentiate family engagement for families. So those are probably three of the big learnings and takeaways if I had to kind of put them in a category that we've taken away.
Awesome, thank you. Rhonda, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think everybody summed it up well, and from the importance of just realizing the importance of engagement, it is important. It should be a big focus. And then everyone else touched on so many things. And so I'll pull from that equity piece. We are, let's see, 62% of our participants are Black or multiracial. And this is in Southeast Kentucky and Appalachia. So we have equity focus among our program because we were established immediately after the George Floyd incident as our community's response to that, so that every child would feel safe and supported in our community. And with that, what I've learned, that was where we started, but keeping equity as not just a piece over here, but the central focus has been key for us. If everything's done out of that and working from that, then that has been just the most beautiful thing to engage families, to make people want to be a part of our organization. When families are, like, for instance, the family literacy program we did out in the community, and they saw our team working, and they saw the diversity of our team, which has a lot of retired teachers who are Black, and a lot of our team, I think 70% of our team is Black. And what's great about that is it reflects the diversity of our participants. So the participants get to learn from people who really relate well, and who are, our board is 100% Black. So that's people who are making decisions on behalf of our program and who are relating to our students. That is beautiful for children after school to be able to experience that. And so we make a point of working out of the equity focus. And then so that's I think our biggest important lesson, because when we veer from that, we always come right back to there. Say, no, equity is our central focus. Maybe we think of doing a program out here because there's a grant or this or that. We say, is that part of our focus? No, then let's stick back with that. So just pulling back in with that has been our most important lesson. Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And obviously, you know, that equity focus is really key for a lot of the work that we're doing. So we appreciate you bringing up that perspective. You know, so our webinar today, you know, family, schools, and communities, partnerships that work. And so I guess what I want to ask the panelists here is, you know, obviously, you know, some of you are grant funded programs, others, you know, are just traditional schools, but like, what makes these partnerships work for you that just makes your program better, right? Like how do these partnerships work for you and just make for a better program, make for a better school environment, make for a better just overall learning experience for students? Who wants to take that one first?
I'll go first. Maz is lengthy again, I'm sorry. The partnerships that I've worked with over the past few years has been our shared interest, providing program for students, increasing proficiency in core content learning, creating a safe space for them outside of normal school hours. While creating these partnerships, I've been challenged at times in their interest in the program their meaningful connections with adults who care about their well-being, their genuine happiness that makes, my job easier. I got amazing partners, by the way. Creating and teaching mutual respect for individuals. That's what we base that on with our partnership. Having empathy for one another, establishing common core values, setting clear expectations, listen to people's ideas, and figuring out what will work best for the betterment of the youth, parents, community, creating a working community that works together. Will develop a shared success. Trust is a big thing. Consistency of communication that I breached on earlier. Having pros and cons feedback from students and the community of what's working, what's not working. Continue to help build the program of being transparent and honesty. I built that as the foundation on everything, transparent and honesty. I should not be, as a director, if something's not working, be offended to say, hey, well, I don't think this works. I think that we all, if we've got the same common goal of trying to have betterment for the community, the students, the parents, we should all be very sensitive to everybody, because we all are not alike. We all have different values, what makes a team. So I would say that. Also, as a director, to continue to see the goal to see students learn, grow, and build confidence. Confidence is a big thing. It's extremely rewarding. I'm very grateful to creating and maintaining amazing partnerships who bring something to the table that benefit not only the students, but parents, the school, and the community. I'm a very personable person and passionate, and I will continue to reach out to everyone by phone while amongst the neighborhood or driving there or face-to-face. But majority of all my partnerships where close to my school, so connecting to my community, and like I stated before, teamwork makes the dream work. So sorry about the lengthy thing, but I'm here to just try to give a message.
Well, I think one of the important things that you mentioned was this the shared ownership, right?
Yes.
I think that is definitely a big key that we are trying to talk about, is shared ownership, so that it is not just from the top down, either at a school or in a program, right? We have to have the shared ownership of what we're trying to accomplish. I thank you for bringing that up. I think that's really important.
I'll go next because mine kind of builds off of Philnisha's. And so just taking notes around things, and she mentioned this, it all starts with trusting relationships, and we know that. But going beyond that, so if we're wanting to engage families and community as partners, then we have to be able to honor their strengths that they're bringing to the table. And so in determining what those are, because I think so many families, we have to really almost change the narrative of what traditional family involvement looked like or parent involvement looked like. And so I think when people have that thoughts of, oh, well, I'm not a strong reader, or like for our school, we've got a large international population. Almost half of our kiddos are multilingual learners. So when thinking about what can I bring to the table, then that has to be on the behalf of the school or the organization to let everybody know, we see you for what you can bring to the table, and then honoring those differences and seeing how those differences can strengthen our community partnership. With that, so in doing those two things, I think that really brings it around to that sense of belonging. At the end of the day, everybody just wants to understand what role they play, and kids can't feel like they belong, and families don't feel like they belong. So looking at, I guess, systems and structures that we have in place for family engagement, and sometimes, to Philnisha's point, I think that sometimes the information you get back, sometimes, if it's a critical feedback, that's hard to hear. But if you're really wanting to impact change, you have to be open to hearing what we think is working, isn't working, and how can we make that better. So I think it really just comes in, and that comes down to that team approach. This can't be done by one person. This can't be done by just the school. It really does have to take a team approach, and you develop that team by all the things that I just mentioned, and then at the same time, helping everyone see how their contribution is aiding to our overall vision. One of the things we talk about here at Kenwood is this triangle impact, right? The students at the top, family, community are on one side, schools on the other. And if any of those fall apart, the child does not receive ultimate success. And so just helping them understand that they are equal partners in this work, and not like an add-on, and I forget who said it, but family and community engagement shouldn't be that add-on. But I think so often we think like, yeah, it's important. but I don't have time to get to that, if you will. And so how do we thread family engagement through all the decisions that we make? And so from a school level, I think as the principal, teachers understand the importance of that. But the truth of the matter is that family engagement, it means so many things. And oftentimes the needs of the families to engage them go so deep that the teachers' plates are overflowing as it is right now, that who else are we going to engage to help support our community? Because teachers can't do it alone. The principal can't do it alone. And so I can just speak from our perspective as, that impacts our funding. How are we budgeting positions to show if family and community engagement is your priority? What does your money say about that? How are you funding that? I was asked to write kind of an editorial, if you will, for Kentucky Teacher around that. And that's one of the things I said is that we all say family engagement's important. Follow the funding. I say that with any organization, follow the funding and you'll see what they prioritize. And so many times family engagement is not prioritized from a funding perspective. And so that's, that I know that's another question of the challenges, but I know we've heard funding over and over again. So I think just aligning everything to your shared vision, honoring people's strengths to build that sense of belonging, to create a team that's working toward a common mission. So.
I think that's great. Thank you so much, Jill. Yeah, JoAnne, Rhonda, what else do you have?
Yeah, and mine's kind of going to add on to hers. So when we started Parent Task Force, one of the things that made it so successful here is that I feel all parents want to engage, but not all of them feel that they can, or, when you do stuff at school, you're kind of limited in your engagement. And so with Parent Task Force, parents could engage at their own capacity. And then once you got them engaged, you would see the interest grow. But it was very hard when your sole focus is survival for your family, to get to say, oh, well, come, we're having this event. And, you've worked 80 hours, and cooked meals, cleaned house and all that. And, the last thing you want to do is go where children are running wild and, so the Parent Task Force gave them a place where they could engage at their own capacity. And our partners were very important in that because, it's not that every parent went to every event or but they gave them diverse opportunities where they could feel like they were being a part of, or they could, engage at their, like I said, at their own capacity. And so our partners have been really important in keeping those relationships. And then we would see parents after they would, come to these events with different partners, then follow those partners for other things, and then and it became a community thing. So they wouldn't just with Parent Task Force, then they're over here with Middle Kentucky with working with the city, volunteering at the city and just getting involved in all the community stuff. And it kind of came from, giving them a place where they could feel like their contribution mattered. And to me, that has been really key with our partners. And working with them, I know, when you work with other organizations, they have criteria they have to meet. They have programming they have to do. But we've been very fortunate that the organizations we have partnered with are dedicated and invested in the work they're doing beyond just meeting the quota and the criteria. Sorry, I'm rambling over here, but.
Oh, you're not. This is great. Thank you so much for sharing. Rhonda, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just bouncing off a few things that come to mind is one of the things we do with our volunteers is a formalized process whereby they are trained, they know all of our policies, they sign those, they sign a commitment pledge, they have a background check, they get the t-shirt, and then they have a specific role. And so that way they feel that commitment. And then we ask them to make a year commitment. We say, if something happens, it's okay, but we ask you to think in your mind, I'm going to do this I'm going to go all in for a year. And then next year we'll revisit that again and you can make that commitment again. That way there is some part on their part, some type of more instead of, well, I don't think I'll show up tonight or this or that, there's a little bit more of a formalized commitment, even though they are volunteers. So they have that role, and different people have all these different roles. And then another thing is it's building a sense of community, because the parents, they're bringing the children anyway. And so if you have 8 or 9 parents here who are, some are watching the traffic, you know, as people come and go, some are helping with the food, some are like an aide in the classroom, you know, different roles that are, and some are helping clean up. So all of that going on, there's a lot of eyeballs, there's a lot of safety measures that can help us enhance our limited staffing capacity. So all of that is, you know, making use of people who are already going to be picking up and dropping off. Why not stay, and why not take part? And I do feel like that it gives that sense of community purpose and all that. And then the other thing is, we've not had to recruit. We've not had to say, hey, we need, let's go out and find volunteers, because it just organically, like somebody's spouse will start showing up, and somebody's sister will start showing up, and it'll be that way. The team, it's more of a team, unified team feeling. People know each other, it's community, and all that. So that's another thing that I think makes it work for us. It's a close-knit community feeling, and that it's easier for us because we're focused on a small neighborhood. And so that makes it a little bit easier than a larger school trying to pull parents in who maybe do not know each other. But that's worked well for our after school program.
No, I think that's great. And I think you do bring up a good point, is like, how do we scale some of these strategies too, right? Like, I think that is an important conversation we need to keep having. And I know that that's some of the great support that the Kentucky Collaborative for Families and Schools is trying to provide, is how do we scale some of these great strategies that are happening that you're doing in your neighborhood. So how can we start to scale some of those up? And I think that's great. So I just want to pause here, because y'all know I got a lot of questions I can ask these people. I mean, I'm ready to go, but I don't want to dominate the conversation. Happy to, if anybody else has a question or wants to come off mute or throw it in the chat, we will pause here just to give you that opportunity.
So we have a couple folks who are more in the community, but then partner with schools. And we have some folks who are more in the school and then partner with communities and families. And I guess my question is just around, like, for folks who are outside of the school and trying to work with the school, where have you felt like you've been invited in as an equal partner? What has that communication been like? And for folks who are in schools, how do you help to establish those norms of working with the larger community to benefit, and in collaboration with families, and to benefit students?
So for mine, like being in school, because I'm in school, so I have a co-applicant, which is right behind us, Living Arts and Science Center. So again, they're in our grant, but it goes back to communication every day for where they feel like they know what's going on. Also, we have skill buildings at some of my partners to get them involved. So like, for instance, like Dunbar Center, which is our rec room, we might have a yoga for the parents, learning different things like that, getting them involved so they feel like, even though they're not in the schools, they're part of the schools because they're getting our parents, or they're getting our school, our kids goes to field trips at our community partners. It makes them feel involved, and knowing the kids and the parents, that makes them feel a part of as well. I don't know if that hits on. Okay. So that's what's worked for me, is having everybody at the same table, where our students, our parents, and our community members know each other. We all know each other. So even when we're passing by, hey, Miss Jackson, so everybody is up, because like you said before, someone has stated before, being involved in something and having your hand in something, it makes everybody feels better for the greater good. So I hope that answered some questions.
I can piggyback on that from a school perspective. And so, one of the things that we talk about and just shifting our thinking kind of comes back to that. What are we trying to accomplish here? Because I'm gonna talk about the way it used to be and the way it is now. So the way it used to be is, okay, what community partner can we find to give us some money? Right? That's the way it used to be, which is important. We've all talked about the importance of funding, but no one likes a relationship to where one person is the taker, right? And so we recognize that. So what are we going to do to establish those reciprocal community partnerships? And oftentimes what happens is that community partners are so unbelievably amazing that as the principal, I often think like, I'm so humbled. Thank you doesn't seem enough. So we've had to think through, how do we show a deep level of appreciation, because oftentimes it's either funding, lots of funding, or time. And what we have found is that honestly, community partners just want to be involved and knowing and seeing the kids, and that's enough for them. Like, that's their mission and vision. And so what we have found as a way to engage them is, one, being mindful of the reciprocal nature and how necessary that is, that as the school, we're not just takers, but two, how to make them be part of our bigger, so they understand. So some small things. Whenever we have a meeting, we have it here at the school, and typically it'll be in the library. So we have to walk them through the whole school, because oftentimes community partners don't always have an eye on what education, especially public education, looks like. And so getting in and seeing kids and seeing needs and understanding paints a picture better than anything I could ever say. Secondly, we kind of give a little bit of information about the school, what we're doing well, what we want to continue to do well, and that couldn't happen if it weren't true. So helping build that understanding of the important role that they play. And then we've already, as a school piece, thought through what are our goals for this. And so a lot of that comes from asset mapping. So we'll think through, what are we trying to accomplish? Are there community partners that could help us accomplish that mission and vision? And then how can we kind of dynamically put it together? So I think it just all goes back to being strategic with a plan, and looking outward. It can't just be like, oh, what are we doing next week? Oh, we haven't done something for families in a while. Let's throw something together. And that happens a lot because there isn't the forethought. Why? Because I'm going to go back to that funding piece and the team piece. But that's just what we found, is that building in communities as true partners has to come through, and being open to hearing their feedback and doing something about it. That's a big piece that we try to pride ourselves on. Don't ask if you don't want to hear what they have to say, or don't want to, not that we have to take all the feedback and do something about it, but we've all been a part of a survey or a meeting to where we think our input matters, and then the next day a decision is made and we realized it was just a waste of everybody's time. So we want to make sure that we are really listening and making sure we're intentional. And then for our community partners, something that we've done too, our community ambassador, is that she puts out a quarterly newsletter. Well, actually it's a bi-monthly newsletter to our families, but also our community partners, letting our families know which community partners are engaging with us, spotlighting what they're doing. And then that kind of gives, I won't say free advertisement, but to some degree, it's kind of advertising the gracious nature of community partners. So when families have a choice, I'm going to give an example. If there's a restaurant down the street who wants to work with us to, feed our families one night, let's showcase them. So when a family has a choice outside of the day, they have 2 restaurants to choose from, they're going to think about the school that partners with their child. So I think it's really just about building that reciprocity with the relationship, and then how does everyone work together to be part of the big vision.
That's great. Rhonda, JoAnne, anything to add to that? How do you, where do you find those spaces to connect with schools?
I'll go. So when we first started, I keep going, when we first started Parent Task Force, but it's been several years. So, we made our home at school. We just went in and we were welcomed. We had to prove ourselves. I think that was key, because there are a lot of fly by the seat of your pants programming that, like you were talking about earlier, that pop up and, it's not sustainable. And so getting the school to trust us and showing that we were there for the long haul was very important. And we did that. It seems though like, and it's not just COVID, but around that time, our focus started to shift from being at the school and stuff to more, we started looking at it from a community perspective, from a holistic approach, not just for school support, but how do we get the whole family invested in the community? How do we use that engagement piece to help people who are dealing with mental stuff, addiction? How do we, because I feel like that's a very important piece that gets missed with recovery, is that reinvestment in your community, because for so long, and it's easy to look at families who need the support that Parent Task Force provides. It's easy to look through those people sometimes, because the answer, you don't immediately have the cure to fix them. So you kind of, and you put them to the side a little bit. But with our focus being from a community perspective, we see that the students who leave the school, as they come out and they become citizens, we need to already have them invested in their home, in making this place sustainable for them in the future. And so that our focus really shifted to doing more stuff community related and less in the school setting. And then after COVID, a lot of getting back into the school, it became a lot harder. Especially for some reason with the elementary, we've struggled a little bit more here, but we've been providing stuff outside of school, and that's where we're really getting the really impactful engagement, I feel, and with our community partners and stuff. I don't even know if that answered that question or not. But so we do come at it from a community perspective instead of where we originally started from the school perspective, because all of it, it's a circle. Everything, what we do impacts them, impacts their students, impacts their future. So that was all I have for that.
Rhonda?
Yeah, thanks. A few things, just as what's great is I can wait and it all bounces together for me here from different people. What they've said is one thing is our partnerships, our broader partnerships, say our funders or community partnerships. I've learned that one lesson learned is that alignment, just like how you said, you're sponsored by Save the Children, the Alliance is sponsored by Save the Children. There's an alignment there with the same values, the same mission. So even though someone mentioned, we're looking for we used to look for partners that just had money, and when I was in public health, we just had to do that sometimes. But now I'm learning that unless our missions align, that's sort of the ticket, the key to these successful partnerships is having a very much aligned mission. Same with PRI. Rochelle's on here, and we appreciate, they and Grace, they've been, and Sue, you guys have been aligned with us and different people as we've sought you out and tried to, and said, these are the same goals, the same missions. And so that's one thing, is that partnership alignment, I think is really important. And I see Philnisha also agrees with that. And then another thing that JoAnne mentioned was the giving students the pride in the community. And so our giving that student voice, a lot of times we say, okay, here's some possible projects we could do. Would you guys like to do this or this or this? And so they always choose that civic leadership type thing. So they presented at city council, they've written grants to tourism, they've done different things, and they've brought in money for the local parks. So they are learning that leadership development, and they're learning to be local citizens, local leaders. And then as they take pride in their community and see how these things work, why didn't we go to the county judge? Why did we go to the mayor for this particular project? So they're learning and meeting these elected officials and why we go to this person for this. And that's helping them, the youth, to become community leaders. How do you get to be on city council? How do you, so they have to call, get on the agenda, but how do you become a council member, and who's eligible to become a council member? All those kind of things, as they do these projects, they're learning that community type thing. And let's see. And then just again, valuing, I think you were also saying about getting somebody's, I think it was Jill who mentioned getting the school to, let's see, maybe it was JoAnne that mentioned getting the school to trust us. That's where we are. That's going to take some time. I think the nature of our culture in Eastern Kentucky is that territorialism, and so we want to all partner and work together. We're going in the same direction, so let's trust each other, and we want our students' scores to increase. We want our students to excel in school. We're not trying to compete with the schools. So that's something that we're working toward, and we want to build on, and just to figure out ways to nurture that, and ways that we can, and be that reciprocal relationship that Jill mentioned with our partners. We want to not just have a partner, we want to be a partner at the same time. So that was a really good point too, Jill. I like that.
No, awesome. Thank you. We're getting toward the end of our time together, our hour together today. So one thing I did want to ask, and maybe Grace, you can talk about this before you have a final question for our panelists, but obviously there are a lot of resources from the Kentucky Collaborative for Families and Schools, for programs and schools that want to get involved in this work. I know Jill mentioned in her introduction about becoming family-friendly certified school, and I know that's now expanding to early childhood education centers as well. So Grace, do you want to just give a quick overview of those resources that are available?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that, and I'll also have Jenny Hobson put some things in the chat. So we have resources to help support schools around building family school community partnerships. We have a rubric that is designed, and we have a brand new one that just got put up, in fact, Jill, that's been revised with, also we'll have a gold standard option for the family-friendly schools as well, to really highlight schools that are really doing co-creation with families. That one of the 5 critical attributes, 5 components, each of the components has critical attributes, but one of the components is around community partnerships as well. There's a digital playbook that also can help folks as they're thinking through the process in each one of those components, to say, oh, we looked at the self-assessment and we're feeling like we need to work on relationship building. As Philnisha brought up, trusting relationships are the core of this work. I heard that from several of you, and so there are some proposed activities, including having students, sending a request to parents, asking them to write a hopes and dreams letter. And so community partners could do that as well. A lot of the activities have been designed with schools in mind, and with the idea of schools bringing in those community partners. There are a lot that could also flex and be for after school or out of school programming. So additionally, there's a process through which these components build, and schools can become family-friendly certified. And yes, that is definitely slated to grow, as we certified our first 32 schools within the past year, and our first early childhood center. So there is a process for the early childhood centers which mimics the family-friendly school certification, but family-friendly early learning centers. Jenny has been putting things in chat, but additionally, I'll just say that we're really excited for ways to think in partnership around this work. Brooke Gill is the person over the collaborative, the Kentucky Collaborative for Families and Schools, which houses this work. And if folks want to be a part of the advisory council for the Kentucky Collaborative, we just meet once a month, and we are sharing great things that are happening, new resources, and then also kind of breaking into some different subcommittees based on the work and what's happening. So one of the pieces of the work is also around teacher development. So Sue has been a part of that work. So trying to think about what the process for teacher prep is around family engagement. It's an area that a lot of teachers indicate that they feel unprepared for whenever they go into the classroom. So ensuring that that we're doing our best to support teachers before they ever get into a classroom as well.
No, lots of really great resources there. And I think, I think it's been mentioned a number of times, right? We all recognize the importance of building these strong partnerships between families, communities, and schools. But we need a playbook, right? We need training, we need education on how to do it well. We need to know what the best practices are. And so that's why this is such a great collaborative that's happening here in Kentucky that we have access to. So we are rapidly approaching the end of our time. I'm sorry, Philnisha.
I'm sorry, I'll say this too, to pull the families in, I don't know, I mean, y'all can correct me if y'all wrong, was pulling some of my families in. I've done a parent survey at the beginning. So I do a survey to identify their needs. So a lot of some of my partnerships can come in, like for instance, one of my partnerships, if the parents on the survey identified that they have trauma, a trauma training, and I brought in partnerships to come in and do that. So it's their needs, it's bringing the families in. So I do it a lot with my program, and that's been very successful. Like, you knock on wood, my parent involvement is always, sold out. But I'm grateful for my community. So I'm very grateful for that. But that I just pull them in that way as well.
Well, meeting folks where they are, you've talked about that. Everyone's talked about that. Really just meeting the needs. So I think it's really great. So I wanted everyone, all four of our panelists, to just be able to, impart a little of your wisdom, since, you all have been doing this work. We're very appreciative of the time that you've given us today to share some of those stories. But maybe just quickly, like in 1 minute, what would be that one piece of advice you would give to someone who may just be starting out on this journey, or who maybe has been frustrated? I know, Jill, you talked about that before, of the before and the after, right? So what would be that one piece of advice that you all would give to them? And I'm gonna make Rhonda go first this time, so she has to lead us off instead of
okay.
Instead of pulling everybody's
ideas. Yeah, so I think we sometimes we feel guilty for, I'm going to do it from the volunteer angle of pulling volunteers. We feel guilty for saying, will you volunteer, but you're really giving someone a gift. You're they're getting the opportunity to give back in some way to their community. So if you think of it like that, that's one thing, is you're providing this platform, and then what it does for you as an organization, it increases your capacity. So for instance, two of the gentlemen here, we don't have enough capacity to hit every meeting or hit some of the things, even some of the places that have funding that we can, but they go to this monthly meeting that has some funding that they can talk about and learn from and see if there's a way we can apply for that. So some of our volunteers can do those kind of things rather than being on site. And so just thinking of it as capacity building, growing what you're not able to do or what you don't have the capacity to do, is you're giving a gift, and then you're also gaining your capacity. And then also, as someone already mentioned, the other piece is just valuing what each person brings. So my goodness, it's so fun to find that whole strengths-based leadership thing. What are their strengths? Where can they there's always a place for everyone, and that's what I would give advice.
I'll let anybody else go next. I just wanted to make sure Rhonda got to go first for a question. What would be that advice? And just a quick piece of advice that you would give to folks.
I'll quickly say a stable and consistent environment is most conducive for students and for the program success. I mean, I know creating and maintaining success for programs won't automatically, happen, but problem solving, patience, effort, meeting parents and students, like I said, in partnerships where they are, building that trust and relationships and knowing, knowing them by voice, dedication to make it work. And by seeing the students and families participate year after year, a feeling of stronger connection to the community, because it makes it well worth the time and effort to build effectively family, schools, and community partnerships.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think mine's a quick takeaway. The self-assessment that was put in the chat, I would say, particularly from a school level, start there, because that really does provide you, because I think as schools, there's this, ooh, that sounds good. Ooh, that sounds good. Ooh, that sounds good. And the self-assessment does so many things. It allows you to kind of anchor. It provides some humility, and I say this, I had the opportunity to present at the NCFL conference a couple weekends ago and talk about this, that, when you hear family friendly, like, don't let it fool you by the name, because everybody thinks, oh yeah, we're friendly to families. We've thought that. But when you sit down with that assessment, there's a lot of humility that comes into that, particularly through the equity lens, because it really forces you to think, are we friendly to everyone? Are we creating equitable systems and opportunities for all families and communities to partner with us? And so I think that that's a really good starting point from a school perspective, because it will ground you. I know that Grace had mentioned like relationships. So we pride ourselves at Kenwood on relationships with families, with community, with students. But despite that, that's still where we started. Even though that was our highest component of the 5, we knew that to move forward with the other 4, we had to deepen number 1. And so I think that will just give everyone kind of a starting point. You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you're starting. And so that would be my practical advice for everyone, is to start with that self-assessment. Grace, I'm already looking at it with the gold level, so I can't wait for that. But it really does provide some guidance, because there are so many resources out there, and that digital playbook is one of a rabbit hole that I got lost in myself, because there's so much greatness. But it also allows you to, and I think that, I forgot who said it, but talked about, does it align with your mission? Because we always get great opportunities, and sometimes you even have to say no to great opportunities. And so that self-assessment will help guide you with where you're going in a plan, and then allow you to understand what your needs are.
No, that's great, I think. And JoAnne, what would be your piece of advice to close us out here?
Mine is pretty simple. We are completely volunteer here. We don't have like any funding stream. Everything is what money we can raise. We have a thrift store. My advice is don't turn down help, no matter how big or small. If somebody's coming and they're wanting to volunteer, they want to help, then you need to let them give what they can and do what they can. Because you'll find that will grow into something more substantial, not just for help for us, but also for them. So don't turn down help.
Awesome. No, well said for sure. Well, just again, a big thank you to our panelists for joining us today. We really appreciate you giving your time and your talent to share with everyone. Also, just another big shout out to Grace. Thank you for coming up with the idea to host this webinar to get this message out to folks. 2 last quick things. Again, if you need to get credit for this webinar, please feel free to sign in on the sign-in sheet. And I always have to close with some sort of exit slip, just the educator in me. So I'm just going to launch a poll to see how likely are you to incorporate one of the strategies you learned about today. So feel free to vote in the poll, and then you can head on out. Again, thank you all so much. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you.